Welcome, welcome! It's Mud Dog with the Texas Space Navy bringing you another Star Citizen video. And today's video is going to be all about the Q&A for the MISC Expanse, as you can see here. So they brought this Q&A out yesterday. I've already read through it a couple times. I know a lot of you guys have probably already went through it as well, but we're going to go through it together, and I'll kind of give you some thoughts that I have on it. So let's start off with the very first question. What are the benefits of using a refinery ship compared to a station-based refinery? The most obvious benefit is that you're going to be able to refine on site, meaning you won't have to take long trips to the station all the time. So that's one benefit. The other benefit is they expect those refining processes to be a lot quicker since you will have full control over the whole process. So you'll be unaffected by the refinery station's occupation level, whether, how many players are there and how many are actually running refining processes. Ultimately, they would love to see players come together to form industrial fleets with mining, refinery, salvage, transportation, and all of it protected by fighters and gunships. So I know the Texas Space Navy is going to do that. Hopefully, some other people out there will as well. But, hey, if you want to join the Texas Space Navy, where we already got a lot of those thoughts in place, or we're working towards creating those divisions and making them happen, feel free to do that. We would love to take anybody and everybody into the Texas Space Navy. So, how long will refining take using the Expanse compared to a station-based refinery? The aim is for it to be really fast, or pretty fast. It's going to be skill-based. And if you know what material you're refining, and how to properly refine it, you should be able to do it much quicker than if you didn't, or if you went to a big refinery. Also, you'll be refining a lot smaller quantity compared to what a station would, so it should go much quicker than when you take a big, bunch of SCU over and start throwing it into those refineries on a space station. Will the Expanse have safe storage for volatile? Or, for example, if I put Quantanium in the Expanse, will the time to destruction halt? Easy answer, no. It's not going to stop until you put the Quantanium in a refinery. Once you start the refining process, then it'll stop or halt the volatile time to destruction of that Quantanium. But if you were to take like a full saddlebag, if you want to call it that, sack from a prospector of Quantanium and put it over on the Expanse, and the Expanse decides it's going to store it over on a side saddlebag, that time is still going to be clicking down. So your Expanse could blow up if you don't put it in the refinery, or put it in a refinery job relatively quickly. Will there be a mini game for refining like we have for other professions? If so, can you share any of the details? Okay. So CIG responded, we don't call it a mini game. I call BS. They called it a mini game. Tony Z even called it a mini game, or something like a mini game early on. But I digress. The real answer is they're going to have a much more complex mechanic in place for refining. So the way it's supposed to go is you'll put your refinery sack from the delivery or mining ship with the tractor beam into the intake socket of the Expanse. You'll analyze materials, and based on that, you'll decide what refining process you want to use. So you either pick a predefined method with very limited interaction, or the manual approach, which you're directly involved with, and you'll have to do stuff like grinding, melting, dissolving, and that sort of thing to come out with the refined goods. So their goal is that, with your effort, you can decide how easy or how hard you want to make it. But your refined goods will be based off of your skill doing it. So you can take the easy way, which is a well-known method, and you won't have to touch it much, but you're not going to get as much money out of the refined material. Will we be able to begin refining and then store the Expanse in an ASOP terminal without interrupting the refining process? Okay. No passive income. CIG has said this for years, and maybe this is a new person to the game that's asking this question. I don't know. But you will not be able to have a passive income in Star Citizen. You will always have to work for that income. So their answer was no, the refining process is an active profession. You'll have to pay attention to it. It hasn't been decided yet, but storing the ship might halt the refining process, might reset it, or it might lead to all the materials being wasted, which you really don't want. So you actively are going to have to pursue that refining process in order for you to make money. You can't just park 10 Expanses in ASOP terminals with the refining process going for the 6 guys that, keep bringing you ore. That's not going to happen. That's way too hands off. CIG want you to work for your money. What materials can the Expanse refine? So the current aim is to have all the raw and unrefined material be refinable. So minerals, gases, metals, including scrap, all that should be able to be refined. They also want to be able to refine gases into fuel. So I don't know how the fuel sacks are going to be offloaded exactly or sold to space stations maybe. I don't know. Can you sell a sack to a starfarer and it suck the fuel out? Who knows? We haven't gotten that far down the road. I'm sure maybe eventually they'll have something like that. Is it compatible with the Argo Mole, Grey Cat Rock, and the Drake Vulture? So it definitely will be compatible with the Mole and the Vulture. They use the same kind of sacks, and it'll be. But the Grey Cat Rock is a different story. They're still looking into the FPS mining because it produces gems, right? It doesn't produce the ores or the gases, the metals, etc. It produces gems. So there may be something different or different refining process for gems that they have an idea of for the purpose of crafting. There is going to be a crafting system in Star Citizen eventually. We don't know what it is exactly, but gems may be part of that whole process. Will refining require consumables like fuel, catalyst, reagents, etc.? So refining will likely require the use of power, catalyst, or other reagents, and they plan on having your refinery be able to craft the catalyst and reagents if you have the proper materials on hand. Will the refineries require power from the ship to operate, thus increasing hydrogen fuel consumption when in use? So yes, it's going to require a good bit more power to do some refining jobs. You're going to be able to play with the power triangle on your ship, and that way you're not losing life support or shields or whatever it is you don't want to lose while you're doing some refining jobs. But some refining jobs are going to require much higher energy output. So it is going to use hydrogen fuel. It is going to use power. Just be aware of that. Why does the Expanse have a single small shield when most ships of this size are better protected? Again, it goes back to power. They saw the need for having more power for refining, so they decided to boot one of the small shields off the ship. So you still have a single small shield, but they also decided that they were going to bump up the armor rating of the ship, so it's got better than average armor for its size. So you're really not necessarily weaker as a ship. But that power from that would normally have for the shield is going to go towards the refinery. Could you explain in broad terms how the sack system, where the refined material is deposited, will work? So like the Prospector and Mole. Okay, so yeah, like the Prospector and Mole, you have those storage units or the sacks, and once they're filled, you can detach them, and they'll be floating for somebody to come by and pick them up. Whether it's a transport or, in this case, the Expanse going to pick it up and either put it on one of the side saddlebags or in the back intake to start refining. That's how the sack system works. When the Expanse receives raw ore via container, does it reuse the same container when delivering the refined materials? And are the Expanse's 8-side saddlebags detachable? Okay, so the answer to the question is yes. You can reuse the sacks, but you're going to have to clean them before you reuse them because you don't want any contamination in with the new refined material that you come back with. So you'll have to clean it. But this is the chain of events that they are expecting. The prospector delivers you a sack of unrefined materials. You'll then successfully attach it to your Expanse's intake socket. And then from there, you can either move the contents directly to the reactor, or you can store it in one of the sacks on the sides of the Expanse to be refined later. If you directly refine the material, you can move the material back to the original sack via the intake socket, however, you'll have to rinse that sack to prevent the refined materials from picking up impurities, like I was saying earlier. You can also swap the sack at the intake socket for another before refining is complete. Be careful though, because the intake socket's going to be very weak and will not hold the sack in place during travel, and the Expanse's saddlebags are planned to be detachable so that another ship can potentially pick them up. So we already talked kind of about that. The really big pickup here is this line here where you can't travel when you have something on the intake connection. The intake connection is going to be very weak, so you won't be able to move around a lot. You're going to have to stay stationary, which means you're a sitting duck. You're going to need some good fighter support or be in a secluded place to do your refining jobs. Something to keep in mind if you're working alone, like you and another buddy that's in a prospector are working alone, you may have to go hide behind some asteroids and try to do it in a refinery. Now, a better question that hopefully can get answered eventually is, will you be able to power down most systems of the ship, except for the refinery, to do the refining jobs? Because this could be beneficial if you can hide behind an asteroid. Maybe you won't, be so bright to enemy scans. I don't know how bright the refinery would make you, but surely it doesn't use as much power as the entire ship, which would make you much easier to spot. But yeah, I mean, hiding behind an asteroid or something should be a feasible thing to do if you're doing things by yourself there, which is suicide almost. What is the total cargo capacity for refined and need to be refined material? Can it process 64 SCU worth of ore, but also have an additional 64 SCU in its saddlebags already refined? So, great question. And to answer that, no. So, all the ships like the Prospector and the Mole have a 2-sack design. So, they have one sack that fills up with ore. And once that's full, you detach it, and they have another set of stacks waiting to be filled. So you can fill those up. So you can fill it up twice, but the problem is you have to be able to detach the first set. So you'll never get more than 64 SCU on your ship at one time. You'll have to detach the cargo and then grab more sacks, or have the secondary sacks start, being filled up. Is the Expanse able to hold raw ore in waiting beyond the 6 jobs it can run at once? If so, will it automatically start new jobs in waiting without input from the player? So they plan to allow some storage, maybe directly in the reactor or in some of the attached stacks, but it's not going to actively be refined for you. Again, you can't get a passive income in Star Citizen. You're going to have to do the work. So let's say you've got it on, 3 sacks on the right side, saddlebags are full. You got 6 jobs running, they all finish. You're going to have to offload that material into other saddlebags and then move the saddlebags from the side into the intake valve to start new process in your reactor. But you'll have to manually do this. You'll have to manually work the process of refining and that sort of thing. So you won't be able to make a passive income, which is, this is questions kind of like the other one. Is the system being planned to allow players to charge for ore processing like when refueling from another player's starfare? Yes, they plan on having a selling or purchasing system where players are able to sell their unrefined material to the Expanse, which will then refine it and then sell it. Or they're going to have a way that you can charge a fee for refining. Orgs like mine are probably not going to have a per fee, like a per job fee. We might, but with other people in the org, we might more go along of the broad spectrum of, okay, we made $1 million between 4 people. Each of you get 250,000. That may be the way to go. Or actually, it'd be more like those guys each get 200,000, and then your fighter escort gets the last 200,000 or whatever. You get the idea. So it would be split more evenly or closer to that. Although we have played with the idea of fighter escorts maybe not making as much unless there's, you know, some sort of attack or something like that. Something that all orgs are going to have to figure out, especially the bigger you are, is how people get paid. I mean, people want to be paid proportionally to what kind of work they're putting in. I mean, if you're grinding all day long at mining, you know, and then some Yahoo comes along and, you know, refines only 6 of your jobs or whatever, but you've done 12, there shouldn't be an even split there, right? I mean, it just makes sense. So it'll be up to each org or group of players to decide how much they want to charge for that. And I'm sure CIG is expecting some sort of dynamic economy, you know, player-based economy from all of their stuff, all the jobs. It'll be interesting to see how it all turns out. The brochure illustration shows pod landing in 0G via tractor beam. Will this also work on a planet where gravity is a factor? Current plan? Yeah, you'll be able to use the Expanse on a planet. Why not? I mean, it should be able to be used on a planet. It's small enough, it can land. It's, you know, it's not that big. Prospector right there. Prospectors will mine, you know, ground-based rocks. Should be able to get down there. So guys, that is the MISC Expanse Q&A. I hope you guys liked the video. If you do, make sure you hit the like button. Hey, hit the like button if you didn't like it. It helps me. Also, hit that subscribe button. That also helps me on the algorithm. Watching the video all the way through helps. Clicking on the ads, watching the ads all the way through, all that helps the channel. If you want to help more directly, I have a Patreon and a YouTube members, and I certainly do appreciate all that you guys do to help the channel out. I really do. You guys have saved my bacon multiple times, and there's not enough thank you in the world to say thank you for that. So all I can do is say thank you. With that said, I'm Mud Dog with the Texas Space Navy, and I'll see you out in the verse.